Good evening. My guest this evening is Islene Pinder, who is a colleague of mine at Lehman College and who is the artistic director of the Balinese American Theater. She will do some performance on this program, and I think you will all get a good kick out of watching her. Islene, we're going to start with an older clip of your work to give the audience some sense of what you're about. Now that we've seen the clip, it may be helpful if we begin with a negative. What isn't Balinese dance?
Balinese dance doesn't use a dynamic sphere. That is, it doesn't leap out, use grand jetés, and it doesn't cover a large space. But what it does have are tiny little movement patterns of the fingers and eye patterns, head patterns, and also indirect movements of the body that ballet dancers don't have, and they find it very hard to learn. It brings you in, it lures the audience into the face, the hands, the body, because it's so petite and perfect. And
is it in any sense erotic?
No, not at all. Far from it. It's usually done at temple festivals or just because people love it. If the gods love it, then people love it.
How did you get involved in this sort of work?
You know, I was a young dancer in the late 50s, and there was a company from Bali that came, and I saw them. And they came to the Fulton Theater, and I was so impressed that I actually never forgot it. Even to this day, I have such a very vivid memory of them. And then once again, I saw them in 1972, when I was already choreographing and at Lehman College and choreographing East-West. I saw that company again, and everything came back to me. Not the actual specific movements, but I knew I had seen those dances. And then the next year I went in 1973, and from then on I have continued to do work in choreographing East-West fusion.
How much of a demand is there for this kind of performance?
You know, when I started, there was almost none. There's no Balinese community in New York. Asians were more interested in learning Western dance and ballet. But today, there is a big trend towards East-West fusion. Lots of Japanese people want to learn the Balinese movement. I have one Japanese man in my company. And now it seems that people want to see Asia. And I think I'm ready for that now.
But of course, it's still not a way to make a living, is it?
I would say no. I'm very glad I have this job at Lehman College.
What do you think would put Balinese dancing on the map, in a sense?
You know, there's going to be a festival of Indonesia coming to the United States. And they will put dancers from Bali in that festival, along with Javanese dancers and other people from Indonesia. But it takes, I think, the traditional, if the people have an opportunity to see a lot of the tradition, then they will be interested in the fusion. Now, what is the impact that the Western people have on that culture? Or what does that impact of that culture have on the Western people? And that's where I am. I'm fusing and showing part Balinese, part modern, part ballet all together, and I think it will come. I think I'm moving ahead.
How about the students? Is there much of a demand for it on not only Lehman campus, but any college campus?
You know, they like the unique movements. They like it very much. But they always say, well, when do we start to dance? But they somehow, the audience likes it. The dancers and the students themselves want to do these grand jetés across the stage. And this is what I don't do.
You have several masks here on the table. Can you explain the use of them?
Well, the Balinese American Dance Theater will be having a performance on March 24th in the Speech and Theater Building in Lehman College at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I brought two masks that are in that performance. And the name of the performance is Sita, Lost in the Forest. And this performance is a work in progress towards a larger work called Ramayana. But I brought some of the forest people. I have a frog family. And this is the daddy frog right here. And there's a mommy frog. I didn't bring her. And here is the baby frog. But the mommy frog and the baby frog are on point. And they do lots of Balinese movements in the upper part of their body, but they also do a lot of toe work. They're on point. And I have a very wonderful assistant, Carlos Vitante, who helps me do the partnering and helps clarify the point work. And so I think it has a lot of pageantry in it, a lot of color, a lot of colors of costumes, reds, greens, blues, and golden scrolls in the headpieces. And I think the audiences do love that. But what's happened is that I work in a large spectrum. I think as a creative person, I love both sides of my work, and I want to show both sides. I don't want to stop with this sumptuousness of costume. I want to be bland as well, but bland isn't bland when you use Balinese movement. And what I'd like to do is show you two masks of my experimental work.
Thanks.
Now, this mask was made by a Czechoslovakian man called Václav Jurevec. And I said to him, I said, Václav, all the Balinese masks are so smooth. I want a mask that is very Western and can almost exemplify the Western psyche.
Filled with pain.
Is that what you think? Well, I said, I want her to have a Western memory. I don't want her to have a Balinese memory. I want her brains on her face, but I don't want her to be so ugly. And I'm hoping that this is not an ugly mask. I find her very beautiful. And all of this indentation is beautiful to me because I've named her memory.
You keep calling her feminine.
Yes.
It looks masculine to me.
It could be either. It could be either. It's better to be neutral but I do wear the mask and I do dance in the mask. So I guess I refer to her as she. But I look upon her as, in Western terms, a high priestess of fate, because in the dance, which is quite abstract, she is like a referee between memory and of the past. This is very important to Balinese concepts, the past, bringing the past to the present. And this is what I like to do in my Western concepts, is to bring, she is in a sense picking some memory out of the past, which we don't know what it is, it's in the mind of the audience, and she is revitalizing it, giving it a new image or a new twist, and the twist is in the audience's mind. And whatever that twist is has to be unique to that audience. I'd like to do her, if I may.
Go ahead.
I'd like to do a moment of her.
All right.
And why I want to do this is because I'd like the audience to see this tremendous range of what Balinese dance is not, and show you how you can be lured into teensy little movements. And I'd like to contrast these two. They're both going to be the same movements, almost. And you're going to see an enormous difference in the expressiveness of it by every teensy change. So if I may, I would like to just put this on and hope that, put it on.
That's quite dramatic, actually.
I was hoping you would say that.
Oh, it is.
I'd like to do almost the same dance with this mask. You see, this is memory, but this is fragrance. And the fragrance, I was hoping that she had that lure of an aroma about her. I see her that way.
That looks like, as I told you before we went on camera, it looks like a Japanese no mask.
Because of the smoothness of it, yes. I'd like to put her on, and she is fragrance and doing the exact same thing, but in a slightly different way. And, all right.
What is the sudden jolting movement supposed to be?
It could represent fear, surprise. You see, that's why the Balinese dance is so extraordinary to me, because it does reflect whatever you want that sudden movement to reflect. It can reflect that as surprise or fear or withdrawal or just some irritation in the body. Sometimes the Balinese dance about a character, and sometimes his character is so smooth and all of a sudden he lifts his kris or his scabbard in the back. He sort of like pushes it a little bit. And it's sort of talking about personalities. And it gives an insight into the character's personality.
Well, I hate to say this to you, but we're out of time. But anyone who is interested in seeing your company would do what?
March the 24th. It's a Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock. Sita Lost in the Forest.
Thank you very much, Islene
Thank you
Pinder.
too.
This is Leonard Lieff for Arts in New York.